So Gitin 2a, we start off with Hamavy. Here's the box. Hamavy get me midas hayam. So Rashi get me midas hayam. Kol chutz la'aretz karile midas hayam. So everything in chutz la'aretz is called across the nation of the sea, except for Bavel, as we'll say later on. Now we're going to see on Daf Daled, Hey, Vav. We'll get into the borders of Israel, and really this Rashi will get more into play over there. So at the moment we'll just leave it there. With someone who brings a get from Medinas Hayam, so he has to say Bifnei Nechtavu Bifnei Nechtam. Now if we go into the Gemara, you see my timer, why do we need the Shliach to say before me it was written and before me it was sealed? So Rabbah says Lefei she'en b'kiyin lishma, because you need a get lishma. Again, we're not really going to get into all these details, but right now we're just saying that you need lishma. Rava, again, it's rare to have a machlokas between Rabba and Rava, because usually Rabba and Rava actually get mixed up in the girses. The girses change their name together. But here Rava says because the Edom aren't around. So here's the case of so Hamevi, again, is not the husband. It's not the Baal trying to megarish his wife, but it's a shaliach. The husband gave the shaliach a get. Now, why does since this whole thing is about lishma, why does the Gemara not open, or the Mishna just open up with a get? If you megarish a woman, then you need to have lishma, and let's have a discussion about lishma and all that. So the Melach Shlomo, ordinarily the bedinhu, the havalei lemishri v'lemisni bereisha kol get shenechtav shelo l'shem ish apostle. This is how the Mishna should have started, that any get that's not for the name of the woman's posture, that's the ikar din of get. It's an ikar din of get. Now, we're going to have some issues with this later, but really the what's a get lishma? A get lishma it's for this guy, for this woman, l'shem gershon, he's actually trying to megaresh. So if you remember, they used to do Coca-Cola bottles with people's names on it, and you could get like your name in I think they're doing it in English, maybe they're doing it in Hebrew, I don't know. So you get to the store and there's like 30 bottles there and you're trying to find your name. Now if you find your name there, that Coke bottle was not made lishma. Just because you have your name on it, that doesn't mean they made it for you to drink the Coke, etc., etc. So the guess that is pre-written. So you go, and again, if your name is Moshe Cohen and your wife's name is Sarah, then there's probably there's probably a lot of gets with the names Moshe Cohen. You could print out Moshe Cohen and divorces Sarah, and that will work for a large chunk of people. So that would be a get that's written that's not lishma. So it would be a pre-written get. Now you can have a pre-written get except for the basic details. So like people buy a kasuva in the shops, and it has some lines for people's names and stuff. But the main points of the kasuva are all there, and you just fill out a little bit. So they didn't have the printers back then, so they had the scribes fill out a get and leave the blanks for the names. Now, something you can do is that if a guy is practicing, don't really know exactly why he'll need to practice writing out Moshe Cohen or Sarah, but if he's practicing writing that out, and then as he's writing out the name Moshe Cohen, so Moshe Cohen walks in, and it's like, oh, look at that. So that gets not lishma, because he's just writing this, it's just writing it for him. So a get like that is possible. And this seems to be, at least according to Rabbah, that's the whole point of the Mishnah here, that we're dealing with lishma. Since I need the get to be lishma, therefore, when I bring a get from overseas, I need to say it was written and it was sealed in front of me. So then Memela, so then they're going to ask me, so it comes up later, then they're going to ask me, well, was it lishma? And then I can say yes, because that's to be lishma. Now, really, the din of lishma is kind of rachuk it's is it really so? Do you need to be? Rava says that they're not baki, that they're not experts. Sorry, Rabba says because they're not experts in lishma. So that's ein yuduim shecharch lektov get l'shem ha'ishiva. So you don't need to do it in his name. Now, what exactly is the case then? That the guy comes to the scribe. He says, I'm Moshe. This is Sarah. I want to divorce her. So then he writes it again that Moshe is divorcing Sarah. I mean, that's the get. I mean, it's going to be most cases are going to be like that. Now there is a machlokas as to whether does the lishma need a mirror or not. So according to those shittas that hold you need a mirror, I think Panei Yeshua will say this in Rashi, that you need a mirror, so therefore you can actually not have lishma. You can have issues with lishma because you didn't say this get is for this person. So today, the halacha you don't need to say it lishma. But if people do gets, again, most people will do gets in a beis din today, so you really don't have to know, and you'll just do whatever the beis din tells you to do. But in order to be yotzel or shitas, they'll say, as they're writing, this get is for ploni, it's for against plonita, and we're going to megaresh. So this is the first thing that the hamevii, the person who's bringing the get, we have a chashash of lishma, and that's what lishma is. So maybe give midasei and sarshiyom b'fnei ub'fnei nechtam. So Rashi here on tzarich hashaliach hamevio, so the shaliach that brings it. Loimer v'taima mefarish b'gemara, and the Gemara will explain v'shaliach zeh habal asu shaliach locholcha. So here we have a shaliach to bring the get. So we have a yin and a yang here, the mirror image, that you have the husband is not giving to the wife. Now, if a husband gives the get directly to the wife, so then does he need to say, do we need Aiden to say, b'fnei nechtav u b'fnei nechtam? Now, seemingly not, because this Mishna is talking about a Mevi, is talking about a shaliach. So only when you have a case of a shaliach do we have this whole thing. And if the husband gives the woman a get, so therefore we don't have the issue. Now, this is, if we're choishes for lishma, so then if it's not just shalich, and then every get that was ever given in the history of the Jews, you can be choishes that I said shalol lishma. So here l'choyer, it's only coming out when it's through a shaliach. We don't have a problem when the husband actually gives the woman. It's we don't have the issue. So the man makes a shaliach to give the get to the woman, and the woman makes a shaliach to makabel the get from the husband. So the husband can give it to the shaliach of the woman, and the woman can makabel from the shaliach of the husband or from the husband, or the husband's shaliach can give it to her or her shaliach. But Rashi here is saying that it's only the shaliach of the Baal, but not the shaliach of the woman. So why, if the husband gives it to the shaliach of the woman, we don't have this whole thing? So people make a big thing in this in Rashi, and why not? And seemingly it's kind of poshut, and Rabbi Kiva Eger is koilate through the shittas, just makes it clear here. Lashon Rashi, shaliach tark hamevii. So Perusha ran to shaliach Kabbalah. So that's the woman. That we have a shaliach halicha that the husband sends it to the woman, and shaliach Kabbalah where the woman makabels it. Kevin to ha'isha niskarsha b'Kabbalah. So once the shaliach of the woman, once the man gives the get to the shaliach, they're not divorced. And only once the shaliach gives it to the woman are they divorced. Now, if the woman makes a shaliach to makabel the get, so once the shaliach gets the get, once her shaliach is makabel, the shaliach makabels the get, then they're divorced. So therefore, the whole time when the man gives it to his shaliach, the whole time that his shaliach is on the way, he's not divorced, and therefore he still has like feelings of maybe I'll change my mind, or maybe I'll cancel the shlichus, etc., etc. But they're not divorced. But once he gives it once the shaliach Kabbalah receives it, so therefore they are divorced. So ein tzarich sheyamar b'fnei nechtam. So that's the Ran here speaking meferush with the Dik and Rashi. V'taima demulsa. So Kevin de Medina lo tzarech ela mipnei chashash irur. So this is what we have in the Gemara, that the whole reason that we need it is that we have a chashash that the husband is going to say that the woman is not properly divorced and that I didn't make this get lishma or whatever he's going to come and say. Diavoha bavi eror mishim hachi ein lechush lezeh rak kashenaisna leshalech holecha. That the only time we have to be choishesh, we're be choishesh that the husband's going to be make an error, and when's the husband going to cause problems? When he makes a shaliach alicha, because the time when the get comes out of his hand, the baal is not gomer or megareshadain, because still he is not divorced from the woman. He gave it to his shaliach. He doesn't have the get anymore, and he's still not divorced. Lefikach, we have choishin shema yimloch. Maybe he'll change his mind, and therefore he'll have an error. And he'll say, change his mind, this gets no good, whatever he's going to say because because even though he doesn't have to get anymore, he sent the shliach, he's not divorced, so therefore he knows maybe he'll change his mind. It's not so final. Once he gives it to the wife, or he gives it to the wife's shaliach, that's the final thing. So once he hands it over, that's it, done. The rest of his life, off he goes. But if the shliach dies of the husband and never gives it over, then he's not divorced. So he doesn't have that cut off when he gives it to his own shaliach. The husband himself just gives it to her. Or to the yad of the shaliach Kabbalah, the shalo b'shas get, yoytze mitachas yad, habal goimer megarish. So therefore, once he gives it, that's it, it's done, it's game over. Mistama lo yerer acher kach. Now here's just a mistama. We're saying this is really kind of like the toich, the panimi of the Mishna saying that mistama he's not going to be ma'arer because once he gave it, it's gomer das, and there we are. So the whole din here of the Mishnah is hamevii get mi medinas hayam tzarich sheyam b'fnei nechtab u'b'fnei nechtam. So that's all for the shaliach. For when the husband gives the shaliach, and this is all on. So we didn't actually do why. Why does it not start with lishma? So we need the lishma kedichtiv v'kachtav v'darshan lishma v'hader lisni sifi ha'eker. So eile I did the chaviva lehu tekanta the rabbanon. So can we have this a lot, that the tekanas rabbanon are chaviv in the eyes of the Tana greater than the din deraisa. So dilmahachi the sagi be'echad misham aguna. So here, we don't need the shaliach is like one aid, and he comes and he says, it was before me, I did it, it was just me, why do we need two? Because of agunas that of the wife. So the Gemara is going to say it later. So that we start off with this din is only we have a chashash. So the whole din is the rabbanon. We have a chashash of error of the husbands, therefore he has to say this, and therefore, and the whole ikar isn't really here because b'fnei nechtam doesn't really matter. It's just that he needs to know if lishma or not, and therefore, so we have the hamevii get. It's only on the shaliach of the baal, and it's only a takana when the baal has a shaliach. And again, most times today, you just go to the base and do what they tell you. So we don't have shalichim, and therefore this rule in the first Mishnah is fairly moot halacha lamaisa. And now just one more thing when we get into Eidim. Now Eidim, we have Eidei Kiyumo and Eidei Ria. So if I lend you money, even if we don't have Eidim, you still owe me the money back. Now I may not be able to claim the money off you if you say you don't owe me. So then I have Eidei Re'iyah just to prove that what I'm saying is true. So it's true what I'm saying, and you still owe me the money, Klapei Shemaya, whatever. It's just without Eidim, I can't take it out of you and based in. There's something else called Eidei Kiyumo. Eidei Kiyumo means if the Eidim aren't there, there's no such thing. It never happened. Now in general, we have Eidei Kiyumo by Davar Sheba'erva. So Ein Davar Sheba'erva Pachud Mishtayim. Therefore, for Kedushin, you're ostering her to the rest of the world, and therefore that she will be osir midin kares to everybody. If you makadosh a woman, she's osir kares to everybody. Therefore, if there's no edim, so therefore, how can you machayev everyone in kares? You have no way to prove it, and you can just take a woman secretly and Mekadosh her. No one knows about it. Everyone keeps it secret, and then everybody has trying to, on its shak to kares, and there's no way for anybody to know. So if you give a heres mikudeshesli betabazu, and there are no edim, there is no kedushin. So too by Gitin, if there is no edim by the Gitin, there is no Gitin, because again the Gitin is to be matir her from her Isra Kares, and now she's mutter from Kares to have relations with people outside that need the problem. So her Eishes Ish Kares goes off once she gets the get, and therefore the get is Edi Kiyumo, and therefore you need the two Edim on the get itself. You can have a separation between the Nesina and the Edi Nesina, and then the Kabbalah get. These are all sugyas in Gitin. But that's basically introduction to Gitin. So the Mishnah continues. Now the Gemara later on is going to have a bit of a maklokas and can discuss all these things. The Pashtus here in Rashi, the Rekem, this is later on. Rekem atzmo nidons kemizrach ha'olam below Eretz Yisrael. So here's from Chutz La'aretz, that's like close to Eretz Yisrael. So we're just going to explain it, just the pashtus and move on. The Tanakama seemingly saying, Medinas Hayam, you have to be like over some type of sea. And then Rabbi Gamliel says, even if you're in Chutz La'aretz, close to Israel, you have to say it. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, afilu mikafar ludim lelud. Kfar ludim is like... it's in Chutz La'aretz and it goes to Eretz Yisrael in Lud, but Ludim is geographically like a sea for Israel, kind of surrounds it, and it's like surrounded by Eretz Yisrael, but even there it needs it. Now, seemingly that's a reiteration of the Tanakama. Rashi b'Gemara Farish Mai Musifei Tanakama Dereisha. Again, here Rashi says Lud. So min kafar Ludim in Chutz La'aretz. Lud is in Eretz Yisrael. Hima Eretz Yisrael. Gemara is going to explain. So all this stuff's really going to come up later. The Hamoilech. So me Eretz Yisrael le Medinas Hayam. So we saw already that we have these issues of you're either not Baki Lishma, or you need the Edom to be Makayim. So you'll have the same issues if you take it out of Eretz Yisrael, and if you bring it from Medina le Medina be Medina Sayam. If you go from one country, if you go from America to Canada, you have the same issues. So you need to say B'fnei Nechtam u'B'fnei Nechtam. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer afilu mi hagmona le hagmona, yeah. So Rashi b'Gemara Mefarish irachat shahayu ba shneiha b'Gemara mafkidim ze el ze shelo yehu b'nei hemogunim ze nechnas lechavertas. So would it be like two states where there's internal borders and it's difficult to get across? There again, since you have issues leaving the town, so then you don't have the Edom. It's not possible to get Edom easily, etc. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Meri Rekem le Mizrach v'Rekem ke-Mizrach. So now here we're having the borders of Eretz Yisrael for this Inyan. So he says that's Medina Sayam. That it's not like Eretz Yisrael, and if you bring from Rekem, you need to say B'fnei Nechtam B'fnei Nechtam B'kein Kulam. So Rekem is to the east of Eretz Yisrael, and is Choitzela, and it's outside of it. And Ashkelon is to the south, and Akko to the north. So Rekem would be like the northeast, and then Ashkelon would be the southern border, and Ashkelon is like the Durom. So say that it's outside, but it's only for this din. It's not necessarily. See here, Rabbeinu Tam says Ashkelon is from Eretz Yisrael. So Akko and to the north, so that the northern border seems to be in Akko. And Akko is like the Safon, so that it's outside. With some of Akko's in, some of Akko's out. Rabbi Meir Oimer Akko ke Eretz Yisrael le Gitin. V'hamivy, so that's our din of Gitin, of where you're bringing it from Akov. V'hamivy get be'eretz Yisrael eino tzarich she'omer b'fnei nechtam. So this whole din which we've had in the Mishnah is only for chutz la'aretz, or from chutz la'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. But if you're in Eretz Yisrael, within Eretz Yisrael, so therefore you don't need it. Ve'im yesh alav oirim, and if that's so now here the oirim is in plural. Rashi shabal me'orer shehu mezuyaf. So here, so if the Baal is saying that the get is mezuyaf, it's kind of b'chomasav, that you'll be able to use the eidim that are on the get, and you'll be able to ratify the get, and the woman is in good shape. So therefore, we have in the Reisha, we have the issues of how do you use kind b'chomasav if there's an error of the Baal. Now here the Baal is in plural because usually you need two people to make an error. If you just have one person making a error, so then it's not a good error. If you have one person saying that somebody's a Ben Garusha, so we don't really listen to it, it doesn't matter. You need two people to say that. So therefore, why is it plural? Because even though it's just the Baal, because the Baal, since he wrote the get, he is like the power of two in order to puzzle the get. So the koyach of the Baal is like two, and therefore you have Urim in the plural. So he's kaim b'chumsav. Rashi says, Im yedu ha'edim shel al chatimas yedeihem. So the first way that Rashi says that we can ratify the get is if the edim who signed on the get say that they look at their signatures and they say, this is our signature. So that's the first way. The second way is edim achirim, other edim. They recognize the signatories and they say that's a good signature. So they say, so A and B sign, and C and D see the signatures of A and B, and they say that's A signature. They both say that's A signatures, and they both say that's B signature. So there, you're able to ratify the shtar. Now, there's a third way that you can ratify a shtar, and that is with two signatures, and you get A. So A signed it and B signed it. Now you have another document that A signed and another document that B signed, and you compare the signatures of A against A and B against B, and we see elsewhere that that's a way to ratify the stars. And here Rashi doesn't bring that that's a method that works here. Why not? V'mein oirim mistama kosher. So if nobody is having any problems with this, so mistama, the get is kosher. So you don't need to mekayim it, because the Mishnah says only if the Baal comes and says, hey, there's a problem with the get, we have to see what problem the Baal's going to say. So then you can say there you have to ratify the get, but without anyone saying there's a problem with the get, you don't need to ratify. So therefore you have a get, mistama, the get is kosher. Taha bukin lishma, because they're buki b'lishma va'edim mitzuyim tamid l'kaimo. So this is all in Eretz Yisrael. So since that the Seifrim in Eretz Yisrael are buki lishma, and there's always edim able, because they all live in Israel, they're all able to do it, as we say in the Gemara, bati di edenim kavuyim, that since they have basin that are keva, so therefore we'll have edim that are able to, and they'll hear about it, they'll come and they'll ratify it, and they're buki lishma, therefore we don't have the issues of chutz la'aretz. However, in Eretz Yisrael, you don't need to say it, and if there's any issues, so then you'll just imkaim b'chamusav afterwards. But before that, the get is good. So the first Tosfot, hamevii get. So this is again going in the box. So afal the l'shar shtarus pamim namikari get. That the other shtarus are also called a get. So hamevii get means it's someone who brings any shtar from Medina Sayyam needs this. So even though the other shtarus, they're sometimes called a get, we say in ha-shaleach, ein edim choismim al get, eila mipnei tikkun oilam. So the edim sign on a get, but that means they sign on a shtar because of tikkun oilam. Again, there's the ayir b'kol shtarus. Because here, you don't really need to sign the get. I mean, it's a sugyo coming up, whether it's Eide Chasima Karti or Eide Masira Karti, as to whether it's the Eidim that sign on the get that create the get, or the Eidim that see the giving over of the get that create the get. But we'll have to see that later. Uba Perak had his kabal. These are both in Gitin. Nami Tanya, v'kein legitin. Mefarish hatan gite momon. It's shtaris of momon. So when it says kein legitin, so why here we say maybe get? It's referring to get. Lo hutrak lefarish kan get isha. So it should say hamevi get isha min binas hayam. So because we're only here talking about a woman's get. We're not talking about shtar stam or shtare momon. Mikom lo hutrak lefarish kan get isha misham de beroiv makomis hechet de getani get stam ayri beget isha. So we have the get stam is a get isha. So here, Tosis Zikr is saying here that since Roiv get stam is a get isha, so therefore here we're relying on the get isha stam. Now Uma shenoigim nachtov yud beit shtaros beget or mirabenu tam mishum to get begematria yud base. So here it explains according to Rabbeinu Tam that first we have the gematria of get. The gematria of get is 12, and since the gematria of get is 12, therefore we have 12 lines in the get. V'ri shama b'shem Rav Haigon. So this is the Gaonim. B'shem Rabbeinu Sadia Hagon Mistama. Mishum dechtiv Sefer Krisus Kashir Yud Beis Gitin ha misafkim bein arba chumshei Sefer Torah kadamar b'Bava Basra. So that you have, when you're writing the books of the Torah, so there's 4 lines of separation between the different chumashim. So you have 4 lines between Bereshis and Shemos, and 4 lines of gap between Shemos and Vayikra, etc., etc. So therefore, since we're talking about a Sefer Krisus, so therefore we have the lines like in the Torah. Now, in the 5 books, we'll have 4 separations. So 4 by 4 is 16. 4 3s are 12. So why are we having 12 lines in the get? We should have 16 lines in the get. So therefore, shetzarich lahaniach arba shitin ben kol sefer v'sefer. The hesek and the gap between vayidabar le Mishna Torah. So from Bamidbar to Devarim, we're not going lo chashiv. We're not going to include those 4 lines. She'ena ela chayzer v'shoyna masha lemala. So since we're learning, so basically we're saying that Devarim is not a book by itself when it comes to talking about Hefsek. That since we learn above a Basra, that the Hefsek, we need a Hefsek between the Chomesh Torah. So therefore we see that 4 lines is a Hefsek, and we have the 3 books as a Hefsek, but between Vayidaber and Bamidbar and Devarim, since Devarim is repeating a lot, Eino Ela Choizer V'Shoinen. Obviously, it's not true. It's only repeating what we had before. Obviously, that's true, but there's a level of going back on the past, telling stories of the past, telling mitzvahs we already have already. So therefore, that's not a proper hefsek. Since the hefsek between a man and a woman has to be complete, so too the hefsek has to be complete between the books before we learn out of them. And there, since there's only 4 books that have a complete separation between them, therefore the difference between them will be 4 books have 3 separates between them, and therefore 4 lines each. So 3 4s are 12. That's where we get the get from. 12 lines in the get, and then therefore, since it has 12 lines, therefore the gematria is get, and we call it a get because it has 12 lines. So we have like a chicken and the egg scenario maklokas here. So we really have like 2 parts of this Tosfos, where Tosfos goes up to we don't have to say that's a get isha, because in most places it's a get stam is a get isha. And then he kind of goes on a whole new topic. Why are we knowing to do 12 shtaros beget? Because of the get. So we're saying that why? So since we have the 12 shtaros is the gematria of get, therefore, says the Moshe, that a get stam is get isha. Because only in a get isha do we use the 12 lines in the get. Because of the gematria of get, therefore get stam is a get isha. Therefore, when it says the mevi get, it's referring to a get isha because it's 12 lines, which is the gematria of get. But if you're writing a shtar momon, you can just write however many lines you want. But when it comes to writing with the get, you do use the 12 lines. That's why a get stam is a get isha. So that connects the second half of Tosfos to the first half, or then it gets into Maklokas based on this. It says, this is why we have 12 lines. It says, no, we have a different reason. So the main Tosfos here on the page will be the bottom. So that if there are Urim on the star, so then for you can Iskayim b'chom. So as Rashi said, the in Eimon lav Urim is Tama kosher. So since since when there aren't Urim, then Mistam is kosher. And the whole time that the husband doesn't come and say there's some problem with this get here, Nisa al pia get. So that's like what Rashi's saying, that the get's kosher. And we don't say that it's mezuyaf. We don't tiny. We don't say that the woman comes into Beis Din with this get, and we don't say the Beis Din doesn't say that this is a mezuyaf star. Because again, there's no. This is not with the aid the shliach saying b'fnei nechtav b'fnei nechtam. It's a woman in Eretz Yisrael. A shliach gave her a get. Say mistam it's kosher and she can get married with it, no problem. We don't say that it's mezuyaf. So here Tosfos says bisham nagune akilu. So really Tosfos is saying the question is like, why don't we say that it's mezuyaf? Let's say that the get is mezuyaf. And we should really be tiny in any star that comes before Beis Din. We don't know who the Edom are. Maybe the woman wrote the get herself. And she doesn't like her husband. She's come to Beis Din. I want to get married to someone else, and she wrote her own get. She got Edom to sign. So the Beis Din sees the get. They don't say that it's mezuyaf, because now really this is a kula here. It says twice is because of a guna, and because of a guna that if every get comes that we're chayshish that it's possible. So therefore, she's never going to be able to get married because maybe she can't get the Eidim. She has a get now, but maybe she can't find the Eidim because the Beis Din will say, get the Eidim and get the Eidim to say that it's a good get. She doesn't know. So since she doesn't know, so therefore, or she can't find them, the Eidim aren't there, she'll be stuck as an aguna. So therefore, specifically by the get, we are mekel for her. Mekel ba rabbonin. Just for the guess. So there in Tosfos goes on. Aval b'mamun tainin mezuyaf. So, but for mamun, if somebody comes, now this is the key here. Lenifra shelo bifnav. Somebody comes to get paid, and so the malva comes and the live is not there. So the malva says, "Give me the money." The live is not there. So we say that. Since his moment, we say that no, this is a mezuyaf shtar. If you want to get paid without the loiva here, so therefore we're going to say that the shtar is mezuyaf. Now again, this is the Beis Din saying that it's mezuyaf, because the loiva is not there. So the Beis Din are saying that it's a mezuyaf shtar. To the nefra shelo b'fnav, we really have three cases here. The nefra shelo b'fnav is one, umi yisoymim, and from the yisoymim. So the yisoymim don't know what the father was up to, since the creditor comes to get paid from the yisoymim. The yisoymim have no idea. What? Here's a star that I got from your father. The yisoymim don't know. So therefore, for there, the Beis Din has to make a tainus of mezuyaf, because the yisoymim are not able to make the tainus because they don't know what their father was up to. So therefore, that's a case that's like shelifna shelo bifnav. And then we have milekuchos. Lekuchos, or where I owe you money, and you have the shtar, and I sell my field before you're able to collect it. So I sell it to B. Now you go to B to get the field off him. So there, they don't know if I owe you money or not. So you write a shtar that says that I owe you money after. So I sell the field to B on Monday. On Tuesday, you write a shtar saying I owe you money, and then you go to B on Wednesday and say, look, and then you predate it. Has to be before. So you write a full shtar on Monday to say that I lent you money on Sunday. So then you can go and take off from B the land that I sold him on Monday. So there, I'm not there. So in these three cases, then the person who's trying to collect is collecting from somebody who doesn't know whether that shtar is a good shtar or not. and therefore for Momun the Beis Din is Tainin Mezuyaf. So that's the ikar point of Tosfos, that basically that if you try to get paid from somebody who doesn't know about the star you have in your hand, he doesn't know if it's good or not. He has no way of knowing. He's not there, or he's the Yisoimim or from the Lekuchos. So there, with Tani Mezuyaf, the Beis Din get involved and they Tani Mezuyaf, because if the person was here, maybe he Tani Mezuyaf. So so even though that for the woman, for the guest, we're not Tani Mezuyaf, because again Rashi says it's kosher, Tosfos says it's kosher until proven otherwise. When I come and try to get money out of you, I don't say it's kosher till proven otherwise. I say, don't know, the other guy's not here. So again, the woman's trying to prove to Beis Din that she can get married. The Baal's not there, but we say it's a good get. Go marry whoever you want. But if I try to get money from you and you're not there, we won't say that it's a good star. Just get the money, and we'll tana mezuyaf. And why are we mekel? Why is a woman different? Because if we're mekel mishum iguna. So because she has this special kula of a guna, therefore we're not going to say that the get is mezuyaf. But for Momun, we're not going to be mekel, and you're I'm not going to be mekel. I'm going to tana mezuyaf. So again, one of the ideas of Tosfos is like, don't use the Mishna as a klal gadol in shtaros. That just because the woman is allowed that we say that it's kosher, and then only if there's orim do we then yiskayim b'chumsav. As in the Mishnah, Tosfos is saying that's only a special case in get. So don't learn how to call Torah Kula from the Mishnah. Yeah, now, Tosfos is going to, like, with Mehechatesi, how does Tosfos know that we do Taina? He said, Taina Mezuyaf Lenifra Shelo Bifnav. How do you know that from? So Tosfos' answer is, the Imloken, if we don't Taina Mezuyaf, Lo Shavchel Chai, L'Kol Bria, you haven't given life to any creation. Sheyakul kol adam lechtov star, because anybody can write a star. Malva velachtim edim meyatzmo. Here, what does he say meyatzmo? The Pashas here, Tosfos is saying that I will forge the signatures of the edim, because to say that the edim, it's fair enough that I'm trying to steal money, but edim are going to sign a full star and make money is a bit of a rachok. We're saying Edom are good. Edom are good people. Edom are trustworthy. Edom. So how could they sign a star? Because again, the Edom aren't going to gain anything from this. So why are they signing falsely? So say no, really miatzmo. I sign it myself. V'litrov shelo bifnav, and I will grab the money when you're not there. Miyasonim v'umi lakoiches. So again, we have the three ideas where this works, because if I just come to you and I say you owe me, I make up a star that says you owe me $100, you'll tie the mezuyaf. I don't owe you anything. That star, I got a star. That star's mezuyaf. But if you're not there, or the Yisoimim don't know, and therefore they can't tie the mezuyaf. I don't know what my father was up to. And the lekuchos, I don't know the guy who everything you buy your land from. You need to know his previous business. You don't know. So you can't Tana Mezuyaf. So if the Beis Din doesn't Tana Mezuyaf, so then you could just write stars on whoever you want, and as long as the guy who the star's on isn't there, which are these three cases, so then you'll be able to collect, and therefore, since this is ridiculous, because everyone will just be able to steal from whoever they want, no one will have any assets. As soon as you write the star, when I'm not there, I'll have to write a star on you to get it back. Life will just be ridiculous. Therefore, the Beis Din have to Tana Mezuyaf, and that's Tosfos' Raya. So weiter. Umihu mize ein lohokiach. Well, really, this isn't a good proof. Defilu lo tanin lehu mezuyaf, tanin lehu perua. Because even if we're not saying that it's that we're Tana Mezuyaf, Tosfos is saying we're Tana Mezuyaf. He says no, maybe it's not true, because maybe we just Tainin lehu perua. Kevin dehu atzmo havi mehemnin loime perua migu de iboy amar mezuyaf. So now Tosfos is really getting quite complicated, and he's saying here that really mezuyaf, maybe we don't taina mezuyaf. And how do you save all the yisomim? By tainin perua. So I bring a star and I say that so tainin lehu perua. And the base didn't say this Perua. And once I Tana Perua, so then I'll protect the Yisayimim. Now we have a problem. If I bring a star to you and I say you owe me $100, and you say it's a good star, but it's Peru, I paid it. So there's a problem there. Who do we believe? Me or you? I have a star that says you owe me $100. You said, yes, I did, but I paid you. So what's the case there?
We should believe the guy who says that he paid it.
Why?
Because you could have said that the star was completely junk.
Well, he has a migu. Why does he need a migu? You're saying he has a migu. You're saying believe me that it's paid because I could have said it's mezuyef. Why is mezuyef a better time than Perua? And why just believe me with Perua? Why don't you believe me, Perua?
Because when you say Perua, you're adding validity to it, and so they might say that someone's not so brave and just completely deny the document, but they might deny.
What?
What
are you talking about? They're saying it's paid. Believe me, it's paid. Yeah. Right? Forget migus. Forget migus. Believe me, it's paid. Why don't you believe him? You're saying that whatever. Forget the migu. But if I say it's mezuyef, you believe me. If I say it's paid, you don't believe me. Why not?
Because if it was paid, then he wouldn't have had the document anymore.
Right. So we have. Exactly. This is a big point here. Star biyadcha ma boy. If you paid, why do I have the star? So when you pay the thing, then you take the star back and you rip it up. This is a big thing that's going to come up later. You pay the debt, you take it, you rip up the loan document. That's what you do. So therefore, the fact that I have the star is a big reusa in your Perua. So therefore, you're not believed to say Perua because star biyadcha my boy. What are you doing with the star if it's paid? So therefore, Toises is saying, Kevin dehu atzmo have mehemnin loimer Perua migu de'iboy amar mezuyef. So therefore, we're able to say Perua for them because he himself would be believed to say Perua migu de'iboy amar mezuyef. Now again, he himself. Hu atzmo is going to be the bala star or the person who's in the star. So it's either the loiva or the father or the seller, the moicher to the lekuchas. So these three cases, the whoever it is who's supposed to be there that's not there, he himself would have to say perua migud iboy mezuyev. So Tosis is saying that the time. So, like, who cares whether he says Perua or whether he says Mezuyev? Tosis seems to be saying Perua is a better taina to say rather than Mezuyev. Mezuyev is a Mezuyev is a rachuk taina. Really, we're not gonna. It's hard to say that things are gonna be Mezuyev. So therefore, Perua is a better taina. So therefore, the Basin don't want to taina Mezuyev. Because Mezuyaf is a rochuk taina. So therefore, I'll say Perua, and Perua is a normal taina. All the time, stars are paid.
When we say a rochuk taina, we mean like something that's hard to believe? What is
no, it's not hard to believe. It's uncommon. Okay. Perua is far more common than Mezuyaf. So for the Basin to be constantly tiny Mezuyaf is ridiculous. Every star that comes to Basin is Mezuyef. It's an uncommon thing, so why is every star that comes here Mezuyef? However, lots of stars are paid, and it's a very common thing to be Perua. So therefore, we'll see that we have a star Perua. So now Perua is more common than Mezuyef. Yes? That's why the Basin will time Perua and not Mezuyef. So if Perua is more common than Mezuyef, therefore believe me, just to say Perua. What do I need the migu of Mezuyef for? So let me go back to Perua is a good taina, but it's weakened because shtar biyadcha my boy. Therefore, the migu of Mezuyev weakens your claim of shtar biyadcha my boy, and therefore he'll claim Perua and he'll win. Maram. And v'im tema, my nafkamina, sof sof, lo yichol leyot nifra, shelo bifnav, or mi yisomim, or mi lekuchos. Mali, if the time is because perua, or mezuyef. Who cares? Perua or mezuyef. Who cares what the difference is? Yesh loimer de nafkamina b'mokum shelo noichel eton perua. We'll say there's a nafkamina in a place where you can't say perua. Kagon shemeit toch zman hashtar. So if the father, so the easy case is you have the Yisayimim, and the father died during betoch zman, and since we have a chazaka that you don't pay betoch zman, so now at the end of the zman, then you'll bring the shtar to the Yisayimim, and the Beis Din can't time a perua because people don't pay betoch zman, and therefore it'll only time a mezuyaf, or halach haloiv medina san toch zman. The guy went away b'toch zman. Hashtar toch zman v'yadayin lo ba. He's still not here, and now he wants to get paid. Shelo bifnav. Right. So I want to go into the guys. Here's my shtar. I want to go. This guy went away 6 months ago, and now he owes me this money. He's not here. I can't claim him. So give me his stuff. Here's the shtar. The lo shak time of the perua. So lo tanin lahu mezuyah for goyva choyva. So since it's not shaykh the time of perua. So now, in Tosis' case here, where we don't tana mezuyef, we tana perua, there we have a nice nafkamina, and then he'll get his money because we don't tana mezuyef. Now Tosis is going to go back to mezuyef in the maskana, but at this point, where it's no proof of mezuyef, because maybe he tana perua, and therefore we'll just tana perua for everything. So now the Maharam is saying, so therefore based on this Teres with Tosfos, therefore, he'd actually goiva because in cases where he can't taina perua, and therefore it would lo tananu mezuyaf. Yeah, is that good? He's making the nafkamina of Tosfos Teretz. Yeah, is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you like that nafkamina, Max?
No, not really.
No, why not?
No, it's not. I just need to process it.
Good. So you like this of the Maram, since Tosfos is saying we can only taina perua and we don't taina mezuyif because it's a rochok taina. So therefore, in a place where I can't taina perua, he'll goive his chayv.
Isn't this also rochok?
No, perua is not rochok. What's rochok? What do you mean?
We're saying it's a situation specifically where the person.
Yes, but the Beis Din don't taina it. This is just a case that comes in front of it. It just happened and it's unlikely. But the Beis Din aren't taina it. Yeah.
Right. So that's I hear.
So we just have a question. Well, who cares what Tosfos is saying? Perua mezuyif. Now the Maram has a nice nafkamina because now Tosfos is saying we don't taina perua. In this case, he's gonna goiva. So comes the Bnei Yeshua, the Haksha Maram. My nafkamina, sof lo kavina miyasmi v'lokukas b'shtar she'ena mukuyim, and he teretz to nafkamina l'shtar shehu toksmano. He's not believed to say parati. Aval kashali to imkain hadra kosher ladochta. The lo shatachai sheyekol lezayif lechtov be'inyan sheyi toksmano b'shat tavias miyasam lekuchos. So Bnei Yeshua says, what the hell have you done, Meram? The whole reason of Tosfos of that Utana Mezuyah is to save people stealing money from the Yisayimim. So therefore, if the case of the Maram is true, so therefore everyone will just steal from Yisayimim. And I will say, so how do you become how does somebody become a Yisum? Because their father dies. So therefore now I have a date when the father dies. I'll have that whenever he died is B'toch Zman. And I'll create the choiv at the later, and I'll go to Beis Din and I'll get my choiv because they can't taina. Since Tosfos is telling me, Maharam is telling me, we're not going to taina perua, so therefore I'll get my money. Good, and now I'll just take all the money from the Yisum. I'll take all the money from anyone who goes away, and good. So what do you? So has Maharam done anything here? If that's an afkamina, so then perua doesn't work. Because the whole point is we're trying to protect the Yisomim. Lo shav techai, lo kol bri. So Beis Din has a takana of that we're fixing the world because we're We're fixing the world so that to stopping people. We're tiny in Mezuyef to stop people doing it. Now we're going to tiny Perua to stop people doing it, but that doesn't help. Because I can't tiny Perua, and therefore the world's broken again. So therefore, what the hell's Maharam talking about? Now, the Pnei Yeshua has a different nafkamina to do with Gitin and Kesuvos, because the get's a good get, but the Kesuva you can't say Perua. But here, the Maharam thinks it's a good friend. The Pnei Yeshua is a Gavaldik Kasha on the Maharam. But the Maharam says, I like the Maharam. The Maharam is nice and it's easy to follow, and it's a simple nafkamina, beautiful pshat. It just doesn't make any sense. How does this help then? Because if Tosis says that I'll tell you we need to Tana Muzuyef, or else people will just write up stars in order to steal from Yisoimim. Maybe they Tana Perua. So we're going to the Maharam, then Perua doesn't save Yisoimim because you just write stars in order to do so. That's not that can't be a terrorist. So then we have to Tana Muzuyef based on what the Maharam's saying, and we can't be in this middle state of what Tosis is saying. So Chayr, it's a nice terrorist of the Maharam, but it doesn't make any sense, and the kasha of the Pnei Yeshua seems to be a good kasha. Now back to the Tosfos. Here, back to this migu. What the hell's going on in this migu? Taininun lahu. Who is Taininun lahu? The Beis Din is Taininun for the Yasamim, or whoever is in the case was not there. Perua, we Taina for the Yasamim Perua. And you be believed with Perua because it migu to Iboy Amar Mezuyef. And it's a migu because he could have said Mezuyef. Now, the classic case of a migu is believe me what I'm saying, because if I'm lying, I have a better lie. I have a winning taina. So Mezuyef is a winning taina. So believe me that it's Perua, because if I'm a liar, I could have said Mezuyef. And I would have won with Mezuyef. You would have believed me, and I would be potter if I said Mezuyef. So therefore, when I say Perua, believe me as well. Because if what do you want to say? I've got two options. Either the Perua is true, in which case I'm potter, or it's not true and I'm lying. But if I'm a liar, I could have said Mezuyef. So that's what a migu is. It's a believability. Here, this makes no sense whatsoever. That the Beis Din is tainin for the Yisoimim, Perua, because he himself, the father, would have been believed to say Perua, because he could have said Mezuyef. Would the Yisoimim be believed to say Mezuyef? No. The Yisoimim haven't a clue what the hell's going on. They don't know nothing. And if the Yisoimim said Perua, they wouldn't be believed, because Shtar Biadcha, my boy. So Mezuyef, and they're not believed either because they don't know. If the Yisum says Perua, will say, believe me, I'm saying Perua, because if I was a liar, I would have said Mezuyef. It's but you don't know if it's paid, and you don't know if it's Mezuyef. So you don't know anything. I don't believe you at all because you don't know what's going on. So how can the Beis Din say Perua migu to Iboy Amar Mezuyef? I don't believe there's no name on us here b'chlal. So Bava Basra Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. These goats, the Achlu Chushla. Chushla is like fine pearl barley. B'Nardoya, in Nardoya. So a farmer had a field of barley. I don't know, he has them out to dry or whatever. And these goats came and they ate the barley. Atamari Chushla, the owner of the barley, came and he grabbed the goats. So the owner of the barley has the goats. The Havikatoyin Toiva, and he's saying that the goats ate a lot of barley. And this barley seems to be quite the expensive treat in Nahardaya. Amar Avua de Shmuel, Yecholaton ad Kedei de Mehen. So the father of Shmuel says that he's able to make a taina to the value of the goats. So you own the goats, and you don't know what your goats are doing. Your goats were wandering around, and they went and they ate barley, and you're like, okay, prove to me how much barley they ate, and I'll pay you. I've got no problem paying for the damage that my goats ate, but prove to me what they ate, and I'll pay you. And the guy says, like, I don't have any cameras out there. I don't, but I'm telling you that I had, this space, these amount of barley was drying out there, and it's not there now. So your goats ate them, and I saw your goats, and by the time I got hold of them, they had eaten this much of barley. You're like, fine, just prove it to me, and I'll pay you. And I said, well, I don't have a proof. But he grabbed the goats, and he has the value of the goats now. So now each goat is worth 100, and he's claiming Tuva. He's claiming 400. He's able to taina ad demehin. 400 is a bit of a it's a bit of a different case. So I'll say he's claiming 200. So you call it an ad kadei demehin. He's able to make a taina up to the value of the money. So he's able to, since my claim is 200, I'm able to get the. So why does he get that? Because he can make a taina and say that these goats are mine. I bought them from you. So there we have so what do you want to say here? That it's, believe me, that they did the damage of 200, because if I was a liar, I could have made a claim of 200. I could have said the goats were mine and got 200. Now, if the goats were worth 400, if the damage was 400, I say you did 400 of damage, and the goats are only worth 200. It's a Machlokas Rishonim if this works. Believe me that they did 400 shekels of damage, dollars of damage, because if I was a liar, I would have said they're my goats. So there, everyone agrees you get, well, at least 200, or maximum you get is 200, but maybe you get nothing there. Because all you say is that they did $400 of damage. So why didn't you say? You wouldn't say that they're my goats because they're only worth 200. So therefore, you wouldn't make that claim. So there, it's a machlokas whether you get 0 or 200. But here you have a simple migo, and it's neman. You have nemanos. Now, here's the Rishim Shkop. Amar Rabba. This is coming from Bava Mציעא. So Chazaka einada me'ez pona b'fnei bal choyvoi. So we have a thing here is called a migu de ha'aza. And the migu de ha'aza is where you believe taina A because I could have said B. We'll say, well, you wouldn't say B because saying B is chutzpah. And you wouldn't be as chutzpah to say that. Lahalacha amru b'zeh poiskim demigu de ha'aza lo amrinen liftor mi shavua. So a migu de ha'aza is that believe me on this because of a migu of that, but saying that you wouldn't say because it's a chutzpah taina. So that's for potter from shavua. Aval le'inyan potter v'zechut mamun, amrinan migu de ha'aza. But when it comes to just getting money, we do say a migu de ha'aza. So where does he know that we get a migu de ha'aza from? Now, migu de ha'aza doesn't have ne'amonas. Because you wouldn't be, if I'm a better liar, I would say the Tana. You wouldn't. You wouldn't say that at the Tana because you wouldn't be ma'ez panav and say that to him. But he says you can be moitzi mammon for him. You can be zechut mammon. Why can you be zechut mammon in a migu de ha'aza? Where does he see it? Kamo be'izi da'achli chulshi. So these easy, that ace, the barley, you're able to taina, you're able to get the money. How are you able to get the money? So tainas like this, that I've got two tainas here, that your goats ate my barley. And that's a good taina because you don't know if the goats ate the barley or not. I could be lying completely in your face, but you wouldn't know if I'm lying to you or not. However, I bought these goats from you. That's chutzpah ranaraina. That you know that you didn't. You just grabbed my goats because they were in your field. And chutzpah doira to do that and say, yeah, they're my goats. These are my goats. I bought them from you, and you know I'm lying to your face. That's a migu daha'aza. And yet we see in Bava Basra that it works. So migu daha'aza, I'm not believed. I will not make the taina. I bought these goats unless I go to Beis Din and say that. We will not say that you will say that goat because the guy you're talking to knows you're lying in his face. And you won't do that. If you do it, so maybe we'll believe you. But to say you'd lie to his face, we're not going to say that. So here, we know that it's his goats. But he could have said that they're my goats. No, but he wouldn't say that because that would be a huge lie in order to say that's a migu daha'az and we see it works. So it says Rosh Shimon there's nearer alpish b'makamakar, but the migu mashal l'shneinam. The migu works two ways. Posher levarer tanis atoyin de lo mishaker. The iboy l'shaker hayatoyin be'oifen acher atoyv lo beyoter. So here, ma li l'sheker. If I'm a liar, I have a better taina. That's oifen a. That's the first way. That's how we've been learning time. That's the posher way of migu. B, lechazek et chazakas atoyin kamo shehaye b'koichul is a chus be'oifen acher. Hayadaver bechezko yoiter. So here we have what's called a koyach ataina. He has a koyach to be zechut as based on his lechazek et chezkas atoyin. That this has nothing to do with ne'amonis. That this is called koyach ataina. That I can get a koyach that I just have the ability. I could taina it. It says I could taina it. I have the ability to taina it even if I wouldn't be believed. It's nothing to do with ne'amonis. It's because I have the koach. So just like a migu daha'aza, I don't have the believability in it, yet I still get the koach of that migu. So too, with this koach ataina, even if I have it's nothing to do with believability. It's just I walk into Beis Din with that ability to win this amount of money. So I walk into Beis Din with the two goats. I can get $200, therefore I can make any claim up to that $200. I have the ability to make that claim, and I will win with that because I have that claim once I walk into Beis Din. It's not believability. It's just a koach that Beis Din gave me. I have this koach in Beis Din, and I can make that claim, and I win. So we see that in the Tosfot, where I think the Kuv Shiurim, Ubetoisus Reish Gitin, Akati Nintun Liyasmi Peruahu, Davihu Nem and Lomer Perua Bemigo de Mezuyav. So they can't say Mezuyav. Beleka Migu. There is no Migu for the Yisomim. Mikoma Kom Kevin, since the father had the Migu, then we can turn on Hu Shapir. And he brings a raya. Hazarti Mishum Davu when Haya Nemon Bemigu de Neensa. After similarness. So here we have this idea of Koyach Ataina, and he brings this Toisus is a raya for this. So that the father has his koach. So once the father has the koach, therefore we can the Beis Din just make the tana, even though the Yasmi don't have the Yasmi have no believability whatsoever. However, there is this koach, the koach ataina, and therefore they're able to make the taina for the Yasme, and they'll win with it. And it's not because of migu of believability, it's because of a migu of koach ataina. So how do we see that the perua works? The kaimalan commandam beruch moicher is a bias. So gavish star kiss. So a star kiss, as you said, a star kiss is just an investment. I'm making an investment in the business. I'm not doing any work, and I'm putting the investment in. You're doing all the work. So we see it as half a loan and half an investment. So the loan you'll pay, so it's really a pikadon, but that's like my investment in the business. It's called the pikadon. And the pikadon, you're potter, you're a shomer on the pikadon. You're like a shomer on the half money that I put in, and therefore you're potter for oinsin. So you have the malva, you have to pay back, and the pikadon I'm trying to make some money on. So I basically get future profits. This is what a heter iska is. You build a loan into half a loan and half an investment in the business, and then the business goes up or down, and then you can, you don't get your pikadon back, or you do based on the value. So the pikadon really is just your investment in the business. So now the father received the investment. The nishpa v'goiva mechza, so that the guy, the investor, the malva, gets half of his money back. Why? Because we say that the star is good, and he has to pay the malva back. Aval palga de pikadon taninin lahu perua, but we say that he gave the pikadon back. De lo taninin lahu na'ansu, because by a pikadon, since you're a shomer, if you say that you're oines, therefore you're potter, and since you're potter on the pikadon, if you taina oines, you're believed, because even though you owe the pikadon, you're oines. Yeah, I owe it to you, but I was oines. You're potter because you're a shomer. So therefore, if you say that I paid, you're believed. Migu of Neansu, and we see that we transfer that even that. So, if the guy himself was getting paid there, so A gives 100 to B, and B, and then A comes and says, "Give me the 100 back," and B says, "I paid the pikadon." He's believed. He'll only owe 50, and he'll believe because of the migu of Nensu. Therefore, when the father is claimed, so when the Yoinsin are claimed 100, the Beis Din also say the Yisomim only have to pay 50. So Tosis is bringing this case of Star Kiss from Bava Basra, that we make a migu for the Yisomim. Any migu that the father had, we give over to the Yisomim. And again, that's something to do with believability. It's all to do with Koach HaTaina. Mishum da'avihim haya nemon loimer chazarti lecha b'migu denensu. So this is all the migu that the father had. He's just proving from the case of Shtar Kiss back to the case of that. So from the Shtar Kiss we see that any migus the father had we give to the Yisomim. Therefore Perua we can say Mazuyev for the Yisomim. Aval, Taisa says yesh, but so that's all up to now. We're saying that maybe Perua is taka the taina and not Mazuyev, because I can't prove from my original case. But now he rejects it about yesh lahachiach that we taka do say Mazuyev for everybody. So again, we start off with Mazuyev. No, maybe it's Perua. He says no, it can't be Perua. De'im lo kein kol echad yechtov shtar mecher or shtar matana v'yachtom eidim v'yigba shelo bifnam yosemun l'kilchus dahashta ein shaykh lamer parati. So here this teretz is saying that it has sense when you have a shtar mecher. So I said that you sold me your iPhone and here's my shtar, and I can collect it from the Yisomim. That the Yisomim's father sold me his iPhone, and he sold me his expensive knife and his car. He sold me his car and he sold me his watch. He sold me all those things. So and you can't time it Perua. What do you mean Perua? There's no Perua here. He sold it. I was the one who's paying. He sold me his car. I gave him $100. I gave him all the money. Or the shtar matana. Your father gave me his car as a present. Here's my shtar to prove it. And the basin can't tana Perua. Since he can't tana Perua, they have to tana Mazuya for every shtar. Otherwise, we go back to the ikar reason. Lo shavtechai lekol beria. So this is the whole thing, that everybody can just write shtarus on Yisomim if the basin doesn't tana Mazuyev. And it can't be Parati because there are other stars that Parati is not shaykh for. Therefore, it's the Mazuyev in which we're constantly tying Mazuyev. Every star that comes to basin, we tie Mazuyev. Otherwise, again, the Iker Svara is Lo Shavakachai Lokol Bria. Otherwise, everyone can just make stars and then take everything from the Yisomim or anyone who's not there and based in. So Tosis' first point is that we say Muzuyaf, and now he's going to bring another raya. ועוד יש לדקדק מסוף פרס get pushed. Another raya that we tana Muzuyaf again when the person's not there. The tayinin liyasmei Muzuyaf. The amarav huna shechiv meira shehiktish kol nechusav. So a shechiv meira is someone lying on his deathbed, and he makdishes all his assets. Now, usually it works, and somebody who's on his deathbed, if he gives away all his assets, so he's expecting to die, so therefore it's a good nesina. But if he keeps some, if he dies from it, and there's an umdina, if he doesn't die, so then he gets it back, because even though he didn't have to say if I die, you're getting all this. The fact that he gave everything away is like a proof that he thinks he's going to die. So if he heals, then he gets it back. But if he keeps them for himself and gives everything else away, then even if he gets better, he can't. But here, anyway, he's makdish all his belongings to hektish. Now, after he's makdished everything, so it seems to be, so let's say he has 100, is his entire life's whatever, and he makdishes everything, so the whole 100 went to hektish. Now, after that, Amar mana leploni biyadi. So mana is 100, so it can't be 100, but let's say this is like a 10 in my 100, or he had a whole 1,000, and now he says 100 of the 1,000 that I had, it wasn't mine, it was Ploni's. So there, do we say that 1,000 was makdish, or we say only 900 was makdish? And the answer is neman, that he's believed, so therefore only 900 is makdish, and even though he was makdish all his nechasav, we believe him that 100 was not his, therefore hektish doesn't get it. Why do we believe him? Because there's a chazaka, ein adam oisa kenyina ela hektish. So here, he can, because what the kununya is where you're making a trick, you're making trickery, and you're trying to get some money out of hektish, get money out of it. So the idea would be, he's makdish all his 1,000 to a hektish, and he says, oh my gosh, what have I done? I don't want to give hektish that much. So then he tells Ploni to say that I have this debt, so we can get the money out of hektish, and then you'll give me 50 back, or 10%, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. But he's trying to. They're trying to screw hektish out of the 100. We say we don't do that. So Gemara asks, why does he oisa kanunya al banav? Does he try to trick over his children? Because Rav and Shmuel, they both say a shechiv mirah that says mana leploni biyadi. So he says that I owe 100 to. So again, shechiv mirah. He's on his deathbed and he's getting rid of all his assets. I have 100 belonging to Ploni. If he says Tanu, then we give him. And if he doesn't say Tanu, you don't give him. So it seems to be here that, you see, if he doesn't say Tanu, you don't give him. Why don't we give him? Because when he says Mana leploni biadi, it seems to be that he's trying to screw over his children. Because then his children, we don't really believe him. So therefore, only if he says give it, that's when we give it and the children don't get it. But if he doesn't say give it, you don't give it and the children get it. So here he's not Naaman. So seemingly from this case, if he says Mana leploni, he's not Naaman unless he says Tanu. Whereas by hektish he does, because you're not going to make a kanunya on hektish. So seemingly he would make a kanunya on his children, to screw over his children. So that's the question we're asking. There's a stira between the case of the kids and the case of hektish. And the Miyat Masik, and basically Rav Huna says that the two cases are different. There's no kimta in each case, so that there's no stira between them. So Iri b'shtar makuyim. So that Rav Huna is talking about the hektish. That's a star makuyim. So the star makuyim is already known to be a good star. And therefore, when Ploni says he owes 100 to Ploni's, because Ploni's holding a star that's Mekuyim that says you owe me the $100. For Rav Shmuel, benatik star she'ena Mekuyim. So when the Shechim Meirah, the Loiva, the Malva is holding, who's Ploni, is holding a star in his hand for 100, but it's ena Mekuyim, it's not Mekuyim. So if he says Tonu, so if the Shechim Meirah says give it to him, then it's like the Loiva is Mekayim the star. So if he doesn't say Tanu, he doesn't Mekayim the star, and therefore the Malva can't collect. So really the whole case is just Kiyim Shtarus, and therefore by hektish, if he says 100 to Ploni, he's believed because it's a Kiyim Shtar. And here he's got an unkayim Shtar, so either the Shechem Meirah will Mekayim the star by saying Tanu, or he won't say Tanu, and therefore the star is not Kayim, and therefore he doesn't get from the assignment. So therefore, why did he say? What's going on with this star she'eno kiyum? Like what's going on, or what is it if it's not a good star? He said, I owe 100 to Ploni. So Pirush the Shema lo shelo lahashpia es banav amar kain. So everyone's standing around the deathbed. They're like, wow, look at you. You've got so much money. Wow, your children are going to be really rich. I should ask them for money. So he says, I owe 100 to Plony, so they're not that rich. So he doesn't really, it's not true what he's saying. He's just saying it to make his children look like they're not as rich as they might look. So that's basically the case, and that's the case that Tosfos is bringing here. Now, here we have a case of a shtar she'ena kaima. Ve'ilo tanina mezuyif liyasmim mikomokom yikba. So why, if lo amar tanu, therefore we don't give him the money? Why not? Let's just let him collect, because lo tanina mezuyif liyasmim. If that's the case, mikomokom yikba, he should be collecting it. Daha naket shtara. So he has a shtar. The malva has a shtar. She'ena makuyim. He didn't say tanu. Give it to him anyway. So therefore, we see from here that we must be Matana Mezuyif in this case. And that's why, if he doesn't say Tanu, therefore we don't give him. Because we say that shtar he has is Mezuyaf. Now Tosfos continues and says, Ve'ein loimer detanin in Perua. So again, we have before Mezuyif and Perua, and that's the whole thing. He says, no, here it's not that, you can't say, there's no proof that we're Tani Mezuyif. Maybe they Tani Perua. Daha Rav. Islay moide b'shtar shekosvu. Now, if you ein tzarich l'kaimo. So this is Rav, which is going to Maklokas and Shmuel. Tosfos is since it's going like they both say together, therefore it has to go like both of them. So Rav is saying, so if Islay moide b'shtar shekosvu. So you have a shtar. So basically that the loiva is saying that it is not muzuyaf. So since he's saying it's not muzuyaf, so then that's he's moide b'shtar. So there Rav said basically he doesn't need to kaimo. So therefore he can collect from that shtar. We'll have to see later. It comes up again. But basically once the loiva says that it's a good shtar, so then you don't need to makayim the shtar, and you're good to go. So therefore you can't be perua. You can't say basically once the so we'll have later tzarich l'kaimo, even though you say it's moide b'shtar. So the loiv is saying it's a good shtar, yeah. So then why can't you collect from it? Because parati. So therefore even though you have a shtar, everyone agrees it's a good shtar. You still need to makayim the shtar and say have the Adim come and say that he lent them the money on this because he can tana parati. So therefore here Rav is saying ein tzarich l'kaimo means the tanas of parati is not believed. So therefore you don't need to Mekaimo, therefore it's a good shtar. Once you say the shtar was written, because you got two basic options. Either the shtar is made up, we never had the shtar in the first place, there was never a loan. Or yes, there was a loan and I paid it. So we don't Tana Perua. So here, Ein Sark Lekaimo, therefore there's no Tana of Perua in a case of a shtar that everyone agrees to. That's the Shittas of Rav. And Rav says they both agree in this case of the children, therefore he agrees to those cases before. And therefore basically Tosfos is proving that this is the second case of that we Tana Mezuyaf. And we don't Tana Perua. It doesn't matter if you do, but just we take a Tana Mezuyaf in order. And again, going back to the Iker reason we do this is to Sheva Achai, Lo Shavakta Achai Lekol Bria, because everyone can just write stars on people and they can't get out of pain. So we say no, we Tana Mezuyaf. And then we, the whole side thing of Tana Parati. And that's basically Tosfos' right, that we Tana Mezuyaf. Now that comes out of there a question that he's going to come on to, but that's basically his raya that we Tana Mezuyaf. So the question comes up, Ve'im Tema. So we have this whole case. V'kera Kama B'bava Mציעא. So Pligi Rebbe Mever Rabbanan. B'matzah shtar she'ein bo achrayas. So you find a shtar on the floor that doesn't have achrayas. Now, if it doesn't have achrayas, you have a maklokus between whether you can, so there's a thing called achrayas is tos sofer. So when I lend you money, I only care about your land. If I lend you $100 and you say, or I lend you, you want a mortgage, right? And you go to your mortgage bank and you say, I will, they say, oh, you want $100,000? Give me some collateral. And you say, well, I could give you, this plot of land as collateral, or I could give you this, I own the Mona Lisa, or here's a Rembrandt, it's worth millions. And you can have it as a non-recourse collateral. So as the bank manager, which do you take? Like a plot of land worth like 80 grand, or do you take the Rembrandt worth 10 million? So you take the land worth 80 grand because if you do the Rembrandt, now either the guy wants to pay you back the loan or he doesn't want to pay you back the loan. If he wants to pay you back the loan, it doesn't matter what collateral you have. He's going to pay you back. And if he doesn't have it, whatever. So if he doesn't want to pay you back, so then you come looking for the Rembrandt and you say, well, give me the Rembrandt then. And he's like, oh, I don't know where it is. And look, and I look in your hair. You look around, it's not there. Because it's called Mavriach es ha-metatlin or Mavriach es ha-nechosin. Anything that's the movable, if you don't want to pay, you'll just get rid of it. As they say, and the guy gets a call up, and they say, what's your name? He's like, Chana Batsara. He's like, no, that's your wife's name. What's your name? He says, oh, with the state of the economy, everything's in my wife's name. So you'll be Mavriach and Nechosin. You'll get all the Nechosin in your wife's name or get rid of them so that he can't claim it. And then like you won't find it. I don't know where it is. Whereas a plot of land, you can't move. And that's the big difference between metaltalin, movable objects. There's no achrayas. And then you've got land is achrayas. So the land's there. There's nothing you can do about it. So therefore, when I make a loan, I only care about the land. So Rebbe Meir says, so really, so the Rabbanan say even if you don't put it in the shtar, you still have you still chayav because achrayas tos soiferhu. Because everybody wants to loan for achrayas, and if you don't want achrayas, then you put in, I'm not giving you achrayas. There's no achrayas in this, but it's just stam, then it's a tos soifer. So here you have a shtar that doesn't have achrayas. So the Rabbanan say don't return, because they hold that achrayas tos soifer. So therefore it has achrayas, and therefore if you give it back to the loiva, then he can claim the money, he can claim it. Rabbi Meir Savar Yachzer, he can get it back. Umukila Shmuel kashe'ein chayiv moide. So Shmuel is saying here where the moide, where the chayiv, so the loiva doesn't moide, it's a good shtar. He says that it's mezuyaf. So why are you returning it? It has no value. Since it has no value, because he's saying it's mezuyaf. V'yachzor l'Rebbe Meir l'tzor al pitz l'tzalacho. So that just means that you're using the paper to stuff in the top of a bottle. So meaning that the yachzor of Rebbe Meir is not that you can goiva, not that you can collect, but it's the goiva of it's just the paper itself. The paper itself has value, and therefore you're returning the paper so we can use the shtar as like a house ornament. So now, Tosfos is asking, this is his question here. V'hashta l'Rabbanan amay lo yachzir. Why the Rabbanan say, don't return it? Because here we have Shmuel, k'she'ein chayiv moide. We're saying that it's not a kiyum shtar. The shtar is not makuyim. So why not yachzir? Ha, lika lemichash lemidi. Because what are we worried about? De'i makayim le hadinimo. Because if the loiva gets the edim, and the malva gets the edim, and the Adam say it's a good shtar, so therefore the life has to pay. And if the Malva does makayim the shtar, in came ma mafsid. So that he can't makayim the shtar, and therefore, based on what Tosfos is saying, we tana mezuyef. Since we tana mezuyef, he can't go over from it. So therefore, what are the Rabbanan worried about? Of that they say lo yachzir. What there's no hefsed if you return it. So therefore, it seems. So it seems from this case, ilevadai mismashma, that we're choishesh, maybe yoitzesh shelo b'fanav, that he'll come, the malva will come without the loiva, and the beis din will not toinem mezuyefu. So that's Tosfos' question. It seems to be from the case of finding a star on the floor that you don't return it. That it seems to be velo niton mezuyef. So they're not going to be toinem mezuyef. So therefore, this is going to be a question on the whole thing. It seems to be from here that the beis din do not taina mezuyef. Now, Rebbe Kiveger has a the lo yachzir kevin. Rebbe Kiveger has a completely different teretz as to why the Rabbanan are lo yachzir. So here we'll see later that kevin de isra benefila. So efshar loimer b'derech acher. We have a whole different thing. V'hu mavor b'tur. Shechav b'shem Rav Shira goin v'ayin b'shach. Shem demahani kiyim al yidei dumiyun chatimus. Now, if we remember back, we looked at this Rashi here, the end Rashi. Yitzkayim b'choyim im yedei ha'edim al chasimus yedehim. So the edim themselves say it's our chatima, or edim acherim recognize it. So now we have a third way that we can kasher a star, and that third way is called dimyun chatimus. So that we get a. So, for example, if you open up a bank account, I don't know if they do this now. They used to have you to sign an example, and then every time you write a check, whatever. If there's any problems with checks or whatever, they will compare this original signature to this to the signature on the check. Now this is the other two cases we have edus on the signatures. Either the edom themselves say that's our signature, or other people say that's the edom signature. Here there's no edus. That's called dimiyun of the chatimus, and Rashi left it out. So kevin demin hatayra lo boy kiyum. So therefore deraisa, you don't need kiyum. Ela de rabbanan hu de isra kiyum. So again, like Tosfot here is saying that the mezuyaf is all a din de rabbanan, that we're tiny mezuyaf because you don't want people just making up shtaros, but really make a din. You don't need, and also that you have. So therefore, mishum hachi mahani kiyum gerua. So this dimyun chatimus is a kiyum gerua. It's not a great kiyum because there's no edus on it. It just looks like something else. So therefore, since that the whole kiyum shtaros is only the rabbanan, therefore this crappy way works. Since it's a kiyum deraisa, it's not going to help. You need the taka edus on it for derisas. That when it fell, Kevin destroy benefila. So now this star, once it fell, it has an Israel benefila. And we'll see this in the Teretz of Tosfot, this whole thing of its roya benefila. But this, the fact that it fell on the floor, it has a chashas mederaisa that it's mezuyaf, and therefore it's bui kiyim deraisa, and therefore you can't use dimyun chatimus, and therefore the Rabbanan say lo yachzir. But maybe if you go to Beis Din, so you go, so it's like whatever year, the year it fell in 2025, and then you give it back to the Malva and he puts it amongst his shtaros, and then in 2026 he comes to collect a year later he comes to collect the money, and he forgot a year before he dropped it. So now this star is no good with here. So the Tosfos is saying that it'll come to Beis Din the imakayim le hedinimo, because if he makayims it, the malva will makayim it. So now the Rebbe Kiva goes, maybe he'll makayim it by accident with a dimion, and therefore with the dimion it's not going to work. And therefore we're choishesh that we'll forget all about it and use a kiyum stars or rabbanan when we have a chashash deraisa. So bringing this idea of dimium is no good for deraisa. We'll also use that for the Rashi. The Rashi needs a kiyum stars deraisa for the guess as opposed to a kiyum stars to rabbanon, and therefore he didn't use the case of dimium. So Tosfos will just say the yesh loymor to al korcha ein hatam b'shvil kach. This isn't the reason because we're worried about mezuyaf. The kati niton lahu perua, because even if we don't say mezuyaf, we're still doing the whole perua thing. Who to hashmul svarele perach mishme. So firstly, he's going to say that this chashash of mezuyaf isn't why the Rabbanan say lo yachzir, because we do say perua, and we're going to prove it now. Because in Bava Basra Behedia, aliba de Rebbe Meir, moide b'shtar shekosfu tzarech lekaimo. So here Rebbe Meir is saying that so star l'shgav the star tzarech lekaimo, seemingly hu adin le Rabbanan here. Got to make a link here between the Rebbe Meir and the Rabbanan. V'haya nemon loimer avihen de perua haya migo de iboy amar mezuyaf. So when you have a star that it's written, so you moida on it, even though you're moida so tzarech lekaimo, you need to have, you need to makayim it. Why do you need to makayim it? Because you can time a perua, even though you're moida, it's a good star. So you're saying it's not mezuyef. So he's neman leimer avihim perua. So that's why you need to makayim, because how can you have a star here that the malva has a star that the loiva says was good? So therefore, must be hayaneman leimer avihim de perua. So since you have the moida b'shtar, everyone holds it's a good star. Right, so why do you need to makayim it, and what does makayim it do? So you go to Adim, and they say, yeah, it was a good. He lent the money on that time. So now you have a kaim star, you can't say perua. But before the star is makayim, you can say perua. So above we had in Rav that ain't sark lekaimo, because you can't say perua against a star that everyone believes in. So you can't say perua. But here sark lekaimo. Why do you need to makayim it? Because sark lekaimo, because yeah, it's a good star, but I paid it. So since you say you pay it, so seemingly if the Adim say that you lent it, so therefore you saying you pay, you would need some type of Adim to say you paid. If the Adim are say you will, but without the Adim to say you paid, so then you saying perua is enough. So therefore the father would be believed to say perua. So is perua humigo boy almor mezuyef? Who afogav to lo tanina mezuyaf. So even though for them, for the Yisamim, we're not tanina mezuyaf, v'leika migu, so they don't have the migu mikum kim levuchim yesh migu tanin lehu shapir perua hu dekaim alan commander and besof percha marker sabayit is what we had before about the star kiss. This is what he brought up before, that even though they themselves don't have the migu, we can still make a migu for them. Based on their father's migu, which is the whole thing of koyach taina, which we did last time. So that's why that we have a taina perua, and therefore it's not the chashasha mazuyev. So therefore, why do the rabbanon not say return it? Ela hayinu taima lo yachzir kevin de isrua benefelto. Since that there's become there's an isrua that the star is expensive. The star is Yaakov. The star is valuable to the malva, and therefore he's not going to drop it. He's going to take good care of it. If you get a something that you don't have a digital copy of, some type of asset, then you're going to you have a special place for your for your expensive stuff. And if you get a few hundred shekels, you don't just leave it lying around, or you put it somewhere special. So what's going on here with the falling of the star? Usually, so it seems to be that this is a star perua, because if it's a star perua, if it falls, I don't care. So how could someone else find it? So it must be that it's perua. So there's a level of isrua, and then the fact that it fell is causing issues that this isn't necessarily a good star. V'loy v'toyin mezuyav who ein legvos min adin. And when the loiva says it's mezuyaf, and you don't go min adin, afilu yimsa ede kiyim, even if you find the edom that say it's kiyim, the chayshin and shema zifu zayif v'chatin, and he says that this is doing a really good mezuyaf, even if the edom, it's got such a level of isrua that basically once it falls and the guy loses his star, we say it's paid off. That's why he doesn't. That's why he lost it. That's why he hasn't been checking it, because it's a paid. So how does he have a star, and as he have Adam saying it, it's causing such a reyuasa that we say taka it's a full star, and he signed it. Giha he did get poshet the acher yada arnoka as ranuka. It seems he seems to be like holding some type of water hose or something that's making his hand shake, and that's creating a really good mezuyev of the Khatima, of the signatures. He's able to get good signatures, and signatures don't look like him. They look like someone else, because he's using outside things to make him look good. And obviously today you can just get AI to make anyone's signature. So the Loshan HaKontrus over there is also mashma that it's because it's ruasa, and we're worried about the time of lo yachzir. And the contrast here is Rashbam, because we're dealing at the end of Bava Basra. Aval ileka loiva kaman, but if the loiva is not here, Ramalva matzi ede kiyum machzirin lo. So if the life is not there and the malva finds Eidikiyim, we give it back to him. V'ihadar ati loiva v'toin mezuyev hu near to tulo mahemnu came to huksak beheter. So here he has a bit of, you actually see a bit of this idea with Eid Echo Neman B'Asurim. But the life, if the life is not there, and the malva is able to makayim in front of us, then we give it back to him. So if the life is not there and he can't makayim him, then we don't give it back to him because we're there's a ton of mezuyif or whatever. It's irusa because the life is not there. We've got problems of mezuyif, but he's able to makayim it. V'hadar atis. This is the one that fell, and now a later point, and the loiva is tana mezuyif, and he says hu nira. So it's tana mezuyif hu nira. It says vadai the din. So if originally the loiva was there and it was tana mezuyif, then even if he makayim the star, it wouldn't work. That's what he says above. But if he came without the loiva and was kaim the star, and now the loiva comes and says mezuyif tu lo mahemnu kevin de chuzak beheter, since he was able to makayim the star, therefore that chuzak beheter, the star has a kiyum bebeistin, and therefore now he can't tana mezuyif. But before he tana mezuyif, and therefore that was a star she'ena mekuyim that he's tana mezuyif. But now he's trying to tana mezuyif against a star mekuyim. It doesn't work. So you kind of have a chicken and egg here, where the loiva loses out because the malva got in ahead of him, and that's the toisus. So here the Ran on the Dafei Harif. First he brings the koisib toisvis to mahashaminin de mi sheba lepur miknas echavero shelo befanav or mina yosmim or mina kuchos. Now here toisvis says we tana mezuyef. B'shtar shebiyado goiva. He says he can toiva ve'ein tzarech lekaimo to lo chashina le mezuyef. So here the Ran seems to have some girsa in toisvis that Taka Toisvis himself says that we don't care about mezuyef and he can be taina, and you can learn that. We learn that from our Mishna because the guest, she can remarry on the get, and we don't have a chashash of mezuyef. So here the Ran has a toisvis that seemingly we don't have. It's definitely not our toisvis. That toisvis holds taka you don't tana mezuyef for a star, and here the Rif will give a completely different reason, because again toisvis is learning that our guess you don't tana mezuyef, but everything else you do. But here the Rif will have a whole different thing. From our Mishnah, we're just not going to learn. We're not going to learn that you don't tana mezuyef from our Mishnah. Lefi she'ein isha zu mamono shel Baal, because a woman is not the mammon of the Baal, and basically we're only going to taina a mezuyef for someone who's muksak. And here the Baal is not muksak in his wife, and therefore when the isha comes with the guest to get out of from under the Baal, then the woman is not in his rishus. So he's not muksak on her, and therefore there's no. Obviously, we're not going to tie in a mezuyah because we only tie in a mezuyah for the muksak. And again, the loiva is muksak in his money, and the malva comes with the star to take it out of it. So therefore, we say that it's a mezuyah because the loiva is muksak in the money in his pocket. So the woman is rishus atzma hi lehinasei. So again, this is the idea going back to kedushin that ha'ish ish niknis isha niknis b'shlosh derakim. What does it mean? She's niknis because she doesn't come under the rishus of the husband. The husband doesn't own her like a slave or like a kind of coke, but he owns her ishus, and owning her ishus basically means that she can't marry anybody else. And when he gives her a get, she gets her ishus back and can marry anyone else. But he's not muksak in her. So therefore the get being not muksak in her, therefore we don't taina muksak, and therefore our Mishnah is not to learn anywhere else. And the whole basis of our Tosfot is saying that we don't learn out from our Mishnah to other shtarus, and we do taina mezuyah for other shtarus, but here the Ran saying it's just not even comparable in any shape or form.